But aid for Cuba arrived from some unlikely allies. Rival newspaper publishers William Randolph Hearst and Joseph Pulitzer printed stories about the butcher Weyler. Not out of any democratic zeal, the stories simply bolstered newspaper sales. They tried to outdo each other by printing sensational pictures and stories that fed the hysteria against Spain. Embellished stories like this became known as yellow journalism. Painter Frederick Remington was among the many reporters sent to cover the war. In 1897, Remington arrived in Havana to find there were no battles, no cavalry charges, and no artillery barrages. With no story to cover, he wired Hearst.
Everything is quiet. There is no trouble. There will be no war. I wish to return.
Some say Hearst replied, "Please remain. You furnish the pictures, and I will furnish the war." And war did come. On January 25, 1898, the USS Maine steamed into Havana Harbor. Outwardly, its mission was to help quell the conflict between the Cubans and Spanish. On February 15, 1898, Captain Charles Sixby was in his cabin after dinner. His crew was below decks. Suddenly, an explosion ripped through the underbelly of the Maine, killing 266 men. The American headline screamed, "It was a Spanish mine." "Remember the Maine" became a rallying cry as the American public was whipped into a frenzy. While the U.S. Congress prepared a declaration of war against Spain, forces were deployed to the Caribbean and the Pacific. Anti-expansionists protested loudly. They believed the U.S. was in danger of becoming an imperialist nation. U.S. Navy warships moved in to blockade the harbor of Havana, Cuba's capital. And President McKinley issued a call for 125,000 volunteers. Infuriated, Spain declared war on the U.S. 2 days later, on April 25th, the U.S. reciprocated.